Hey folks, we're going to pick up the last topic here in chapter 3. It's a little bit of a light week, which is good. It'll give you time to finish up that project. So when we are working with the database, we're logged in now. We didn't actually need to use any password ever, which is kind of bad. So if I go back to home here and go to user accounts, we're automatically logged in as this root user because there's no password. The root user has all permissions, which is kind of bad, right? You don't want everybody to have access to your database. Now, it's restricted to people on our computer, right? Only with localhost or ::1 or 127.0.0.1. That's our internal or home IPv4 address, our home IPv6 address, or the loopback, like the internal one, or just localhost, our own computer. So it's probably better to go set a password. I think that's a big pain in the butt. And again, we're focused on development work, not on real world server deployment maintenance sort of things here. We're just learning how to do the development sort of things. So that's okay. But our application should not use the root account. Right? A good security rule of thumb is least privilege. It's a common practice. So you want your program to have the least amount of permissions it needs to do its job. And to do that, it does not need all privileges. So what you can do is you can add a user account here. So we'll call this the stock, stock user. Host is anything is fine. And then for password, I'm just going to use test because I feel really awful here, but that's fine. Just test. It's nice and easy here. And then you don't want any global privileges at all. Global means privileges to the entire database system everywhere, all the databases. You don't want any of those. So I'm just going to say go here with no permissions, and then I'm going to go to the database tab here and add database specific permissions to the stock database. And I'll say go. And now for the stock database, I want to give you data permissions. I want you to be able to select, insert, update, and delete. The structure commands are the other piece of SQL we kind of glossed over here because the tool does it for us. This is the DML of the data manipulation language. Our user doesn't need to do any of this at all. Our program only needs to interact with the data. We need to be able to select the data, insert the data, update the data, and possibly delete the data. Those are the only things our program will need to do. So you can make a user with specific permissions to just that database and just the level of permissions that they need. And sometimes people might even go as far as to remove delete. A lot of databases have ways of like marking data as inactive. They, depending on the system, might rarely delete something because once that data is deleted, you'll never get it back. But say like a customer moves on and they're not an active customer, we might not want to just totally get rid of all their information here. Maybe we want to still keep that. And then again, there's other issues later down the road. If you try and delete a customer that has active transactions or any transactions, you actually can't, because that idea of referential integrity says that if you tell me that there is a user ID of 1 for this transaction, there has to be a user number 1 in the table. So if I actually try and delete this row here, it's going to crash. It'll say can't delete or update a parent row. A foreign key constraint check fails. The foreign key constraint references user's ID. A big way of saying, hey, you can't do that because this user ID shows up somewhere else. So databases are good at protecting that integrity. Right? So that's about it for working with databases here. That's, again, if you've taken the database course, hopefully most of this was boring. I apologize. If you've not taken it before, it probably felt like a fire hose, a lot of information. We don't necessarily need to know all the fine details here, because I'll try and give you everything that you need for the assignments as we go here, but I want you to have some basic understanding here of how our database systems work. All right, folks, I'll see you in the next video.